coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hello, everybody. This is KYLA for Combat Boots to High Heels, your host of this show. And last week we talked about the COVID-19 and coronavirus and everything associated with that. For a brief recap, if you weren't able to listen to it, please go back and take a listen, or any of the other podcasts that we've done so far. And I would like this week to talk a little bit about the name Combat Boots to High Heels and how that came about. I am a U.S. Army veteran, so I am quite accustomed to combat boots. I started out in the Illinois Army National Guard years ago before transitioning, and they issued us wonderful footwear called combat boots that you had to keep clean, keep polished, the whole 9 yards throughout active duty before they came out with the newer ones for the urban and sand warfare that they don't have to worry about polishing, they just got to worry about cleaning. Combat boots were pretty comfortable once you got them broke in, just like any other shoe. However, living an Army life, even transferring to civilian shoes, was a little bit different depending on the situation that you were in. But when I started my transition 4 years ago, it was just like, okay, now my footwear is going to change because I wasn't in that fashion world of male clothing anymore, transferring into the fashion world of female clothing. Started out, my first pair of shoes were a little pair of Mary Jane flats, and that got to my feet and my back and my knees because you're really walking on the flat ground. So then it's like, okay, what can I move to? And I tried on different shoes. I moved to wedges. Now wedges are kind of comfortable, but I ended up getting the wrong size. And the leather stretched out, and you can't reshrink the leather. So it made it a little bit more difficult. And moving into that, but the length of the foot shoe was what I was more concerned about than the width. And then I moved from wedges into different heels, kitten heels for different things. I'm currently now trying to break into a pair of 3 to 4 inch high heels, and learning how to walk in them is like learning how to walk all over again. So it's rather comical to watch me walk, I can imagine. And I was advised today not to fall and break my neck, but I don't plan on that because that would kind of hurt. And I don't like that much pain. So I was at a Women's Veterans Writing Expo a few years ago, learning different genres of writing and that I wanted to explore with and write so that way I could figure out what ways to go and how I want to do things and blog and things of that nature, because I wasn't really sure what to do. And I was in a op-ed seminar, and that is a little bit different style writing than I had ever been used to. With that, we were talking, and one of the ladies said, it would be interesting if you came up with something like combat boots to high heels, because I went from combat boots, transitioned on through life to high heels. And that is how my blog came about on the title. And I toyed with that for a little while and figured out how to get it. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should write a book. While I was sitting there at the seminar, and what would I title my book? Well, why not use the same thing, combat boots to high heels? And then I was talking to the producers for Society Bites Radio and a Manatee group, and we set up a podcast. And I said, well, I already have Combat Boots to High Heels for a blog, name of my book, for my memoirs. Why not that? So we came up with going ahead with the Combat Boots to High Heels for my podcast. And I want you to know that it has been a tremendous journey learning all this new media, because it is new to me. Even though my younger days I was on the radio, and it was my call sign for that was Good Morning Mattoon. It's not 600. And what's the O stand for? Is, my God, it's early here on WLKL Radio, the voice of Lakeland College. So that was kind of my intro into radio and now into podcasting. And one of my friends told me I should do my intro for my blog, for my podcast, but I figured I'd reminisce a little bit and throw that in there. So that way you'd be able to hear that, which was back in the day. And of course, naturally, Good Morning Vietnam by Robin Williams. One of his movies was popular back then. Yes, that dates me, if you guys have been trying to figure out my age, to know the difference in my life at that point in time. It was a fun time being on the radio, so I figured, I could probably give podcasting a try and see how it goes and how fun it is, and it has been fun. And I'm looking forward to bringing on some guests next month. I've talked to a couple people, and they're trying to figure out their schedules. And now you're probably going, but we're all home right now. Why not now? Well, there's things to work out, and they've got their own things going on. So I want everyone to be comfortable when they come on to talk about their stories and be able to move forward with the show. And a lot of these are going to be veterans. So trying to get them moving into the right setup and get them working the right way to have the show is important, because I don't want to have a show flop per se, because I can do that totally on my own, like I'm probably doing now. If you're not engaged, I do apologize, but we will get that rolling. So Army life is not for everyone, but for those that it is for, it is a rewarding career, and you get to learn a lot and be able to do a lot. And there's a lot of different jobs. And getting even the military educated on transgender soldiers is one of my goals from my degree and my thesis, because they are valuable employees. Being able to transition in the Army is important, or in any branch of military service. There are things that they can do to allow that transition person to serve, and that's the fact that, just like the VA, they don't pay for certain surgeries. They don't, they take care of general health care. When it came out in the media that transgender people couldn't serve after a certain election, It was mind-boggling because these people already had their government jobs. They were already there, so that was taking us backwards instead of moving forward. Now, it's easy to say, well, you can't join till you meet these criteria. But not everybody wants to meet the criteria of full transition because they can't afford to. So you're not letting a willing person serve their country unless they revert back, which is psychologically detrimental. And even in the Veterans Administration, working with doctors, trying to get education out there is important because we're veterans. It's who we are. It's a life that we lived. And to transition in the VA is not easy, but it's not as difficult. So you can get proper medical care, but you have to, just like civilian world, you have to see the proper therapists. You have to talk to your doctor and make sure your doctor is comfortable with treating you. And if not, request a different doctor and find one that is. And there's times that say, well, all doctors are supposed to be. I'm sorry, but they're human. They have their preferences on patients, and they don't understand other patients and what the transgender patient is going through. So it's easier for them to say, okay, let me not do this. Let me refer you to somebody else. Or you have to request to be referred to someone else if you sense that your doctor is not comfortable with you. And then you can get the care that you need. But then finding out what nuances can and cannot be done is a little bit different story. Certain things they'll remove from a person, certain things they won't do for a person. And it's just navigating those waters till we can get everything situated and get society to realize that we have been here. We are here. This is not something new in life. It's just been brought out more and more and more in order to be able to have a lifestyle that we're comfortable with. We're all human. We all live in this wonderful world, but it is what we make of it. And if we don't continue to move forward and evolve and be ever present and accepting of each other, then we're going to continue to slide backwards. And we're not going to be progressive. There's a lot of worldly eyes on the United States, and to see what the United States is doing, and anytime there's any little discord or disrupt in the U.S., they're ready to pounce on it. If there's any type of bigotry going on, they're noticing that, and they're ready to fuel that fire, to create issues, to create problems, to try to keep us off kilter and keep our resolve disoriented. But that's the thing about the United States. We haven't ever lost